Illinois real estate exams questions. Question 1. Cameron passed the Illinois broker examination but delayed the license application for more than a year. What is the likely exam-related consequence? Option A. The passing examination result may no longer be usable for licensure. Option B. The score remains valid permanently. Option C. The candidate becomes licensed automatically. Option D. Only a name-change form is required. The correct answer is option A. The passing examination result may no longer be usable for licensure. The SI Bulletin states that candidates must apply for licensure within 1 year after passing the appropriate examination. A permanent score, automatic licensure, or a simple name-change form would not satisfy the application requirement after the score validity window has passed. Question 2. A contract identifies land using a rectangular government survey description. Why are legal descriptions tested separately from street addresses? Option A. Street addresses are always more legally precise. Option B. A legal description is intended to identify the parcel with greater legal precision than a mailing address. Option C. Legal descriptions are used only for personal property. Option D. A legal description replaces the need for a seller's signature. The correct answer is option B. A legal description is intended to identify the parcel with greater legal precision than a mailing address. Legal descriptions identify the land for conveyance and title purposes, while street addresses are often practical but less precise. They apply to real property, not personal property, and they do not replace signature and contract requirements. Question 3. Annual property taxes are $3,120, and the seller owes the buyer a credit for 86 days using a 365-day year. Approximately how large is the credit? Option A, $260. Option B, $9. Option C, $735. Option D, $1,470. The correct answer is option C, $735. Daily proration divides $3,120 by 365 and multiplies by 86 days, giving about $735. The other choices use 1 month, 1 day only, or double the required prorated period.
Stressed about your AccuPlacer exam? We can take AccuPlacer exam for you remotely and undetected. We always guarantee a pass and payments only after results. To send us an email, scan the code or tap the link in the description and let's get it done.
Question 4. An owner personally advertises and negotiates the sale of the owner's own lakefront cottage. Why is this usually treated differently from brokerage for others? Option A. Every owner must hold a broker license before signing a deed. Option B. The owner is automatically sponsored by the buyer's broker. Option C. The owner may collect commissions from other sellers without a license. Option D. Owners may generally sell or lease their own property without acting as licensed brokers for the public. The correct answer is option D. Owners may generally sell or lease their own property without acting as licensed brokers for the public. Real estate license laws typically regulate brokerage services performed for others, especially for compensation. An owner selling the owner's own property is not thereby representing the public as a broker, while licensing would be required to collect commissions or broker transactions for other owners. Question 5. A tenant with a disability requests a reasonable accommodation to use the rental property. How should the property manager analyze the request? Option A. Evaluate whether the request is reasonable and necessary for equal use and enjoyment of the housing. Option B. Deny every accommodation to keep rules identical. Option C. Approve only accommodations requested by owners. Option D. Treat the request as an automatic eviction notice. The correct answer is option A. Evaluate whether the request is reasonable and necessary for equal use and enjoyment of the housing. Fair housing analysis considers whether an accommodation is reasonable and related to the tenant's disability-related needs. Blanket denial, owner-only approval standards, or treating the request as eviction would conflict with the purpose of accommodation rules. Question 6. A listing closes at $430,000 with a brokerage fee of 4.0%. What total commission is generated before any split? Option A, $8,600. Option B, $17,200. Option C, $21,500. Option D, $4,300. The correct answer is option B, $17,200. Commission is calculated by multiplying the sale price by the commission rate. $430,000 times 4% equals $17,200. The distractors divide the commission, use the wrong percentage, or calculate only 1% of the price. Question 7. Harper posts a social media ad for a listing near Elgin using only a personal phone number and no brokerage identification. Which issue is most likely raised by Illinois advertising rules? Option A. A licensee may advertise without any broker identification online. Option B. Only print advertising must identify a broker. Option C. Real estate advertising must identify the sponsoring brokerage in a compliant and not misleading way. Option D. Brokerage identification is unnecessary if the property address appears. The correct answer is option C. Real estate advertising must identify the sponsoring brokerage in a compliant and not misleading way. Illinois advertising expectations focus on protecting the public from misleading ads and making the sponsoring brokerage clear. Online ads are still advertising, and the property address or a personal phone number does not replace proper broker identification. Question 8. Sydney is comparing loan terms and closing disclosures. Which federal lending framework is commonly tested with residential mortgage transactions? Option A. The Statute of Descent and Distribution. Option B. The Rule Against Perpetuities Only. Option C. A zoning variance issued by the City Council. Option D. TRID and related TILA-RESPA disclosure rules. The correct answer is option D. TRID and related TILA-RESPA disclosure rules. Residential mortgage questions often test TILA, RESPA, and integrated TRID disclosures that help borrowers compare costs and terms. The other choices deal with inheritance, property-law doctrines, or land-use approvals rather than consumer mortgage disclosure.
Are you looking for non-medical assistant exam actual questions? Visit our website pokerexams.com to access non-medical assistant exam study guide with actual questions and answers. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description to get non-medical assistant exam answer key today.
Question 9. A seller receives $300,000 at closing, pays off a $80,000 mortgage, and pays $8,000 in seller closing costs. What are the approximate net proceeds? Option A, $212,000. Option B, $220,000. Option C, $292,000. Option D, $88,000. The correct answer is option A, $212,000. Seller net proceeds subtract the loan payoff and seller costs from the sale price. $300,000 minus $80,000 minus $8,000 equals $212,000. The other answers omit one deduction or add deductions instead of subtracting them from the sale price. Question 10. A listing broker learns of an active termite condition before a buyer submits an offer. How should the issue generally be treated in an Illinois exam scenario? Option A. It may be hidden if the seller requests silence. Option B. A known material fact should be disclosed rather than concealed. Option C. It is never relevant once the property is listed as minus is. Option D. It must be disclosed only after the buyer obtains a loan. The correct answer is option B. A known material fact should be disclosed rather than concealed. Known material facts can affect a buyer's decision and should not be concealed. A seller's request, and as minus is label, or the timing of financing does not eliminate the broker's duty to avoid misrepresentation and disclose material information. Question 11. A property manager named Avery collects rents, screens tenants, arranges maintenance, and accounts for owner funds. Which duty is most central? Option A, guaranteeing that every tenant will renew. Option B, commingling all rents with personal funds. Option C, managing the property in the owner's interest while properly accounting for funds and records. Option D, ignoring fair housing laws during screening. The correct answer is option C, managing the property in the owner's interest while properly accounting for funds and records. Property managers owe duties tied to the management agreement, owner instructions, legal compliance, and accurate accounting. They cannot guarantee renewals, commingle funds, or ignore fair housing requirements while screening tenants. Question 12. A small rental property has annual net operating income of $39,000 and an indicated capitalization rate of 10%. What value is suggested by the income approach? Option A, $3,900. Option B, $195,000. Option C, a different result not supported by the facts 3. Option D, $390,000. The correct answer is option D, $390,000. The income approach using direct capitalization divides NOI by the capitalization rate. $39,000 divided by 10% equals about $390,000. The other answers multiply by the rate, treat the percent as a whole number, or cut the indicated value in half. Question 13. A residential seller in Illinois knows about past plumbing leaks but leaves the disclosure report blank. What concept is most directly tested? Option A, the seller's disclosure obligations for known material defects. Option B, the buyer's duty to ignore all seller statements. Option C, the lender's exclusive duty to inspect the property. Option D, the appraiser's authority to waive statutory disclosures. The correct answer is option A, the seller's disclosure obligations for known material defects. Illinois residential disclosure rules focus on the seller's disclosure of known material defects. Buyers still may inspect, but that does not make seller disclosure meaningless. Lenders and appraisers do not waive statutory disclosure duties. Question 14. A broker representing Harper receives confidential negotiating information. Which duty is most directly triggered? Option A, revealing all confidential strategy to the opposing party. Option B, protecting confidential information unless disclosure is authorized or legally required. Option C, changing the purchase price without permission. Option D, ignoring lawful client instructions. The correct answer is option B, protecting confidential information unless disclosure is authorized or legally required. Agency and brokerage duties include protecting confidential information while also making required disclosures. Revealing strategy, changing terms without authority, or ignoring lawful instructions would violate core client-service duties. Question 15. A property is worth $349,000 and has a loan balance of $93,000. Approximately how much equity does the owner have? Option A, $442,000. Option B, $93,000. Option C, $256,000. Option D, $279,200. The correct answer is option C, $256,000. Equity is the property's value minus debt secured by the property, so $349,000 minus $93,000 equals $256,000. The distractors add debt, report the loan balance, or use an unsupported percentage of value. Question 16. Parker receives $1,500 in earnest money and places it in a personal checking account for convenience. Which trust minus account problem is illustrated? Option A, a lawful automatic conversion of escrow funds into commission. Option B, a required method for handling every earnest money deposit. Option C, a title defect that is cured by recording a deed. Option D, commingling client funds with personal funds. The correct answer is option D, commingling client funds with personal funds. Client or customer funds such as earnest money must be handled through the appropriate special or trust account process. Putting the money into a personal checking account is commingling. It is not automatic commission, not the required method, and not a title minus recording issue. Question 17. A study question asks whether an interest is leasehold estate. What is the candidate being tested on? Option A, the nature and duration of rights held in real property. Option B, the amount of commission owed to the broker. Option C, the mortgage interest rate. Option D, The required size of a residential disclosure form. The correct answer is option A. The nature and duration of rights held in real property. Estates and land describe the nature and duration of property rights. Commission, loan interest rates, and disclosure minus form size are separate topics and do not define the estate itself. Question 18. A sponsoring broker is asked to produce special account records during a regulatory review. Which practice best supports compliance? Option A. Deleting old deposit records once the closing occurs. Option B. Maintaining complete transaction and trust minus account records that can be examined when required. Option C. Keeping records only in the salesperson's personal email. Option D. Combining all clients into one undocumented cash envelope. The correct answer is option B. Maintaining complete transaction and trust minus account records that can be examined when required. Regulators may examine records to verify compliant handling of funds and transactions. Deleting records, relying only on a personal email, or using an undocumented cash envelope undermines record retention and auditability.
Stressed about your non-medical assistant exam? We can take non-medical assistant exam for you remotely and undetected. We always guarantee a pass and payments only after results. To send us an email, scan the code or tap the link in the description and let's get it done.
Question 19. A buyer wants to operate a retail shop in a residentially zoned property in Naperville. Which issue should be investigated before closing? Option A. Whether the deed automatically changes zoning. Option B. Whether the broker can override the ordinance. Option C. Whether zoning permits the intended use or whether an approval such as a variance is needed. Option D. Whether title insurance guarantees business income. The correct answer is option C. Whether zoning permits the intended use or whether an approval such as a variance is needed. Zoning controls land use, so the buyer's intended use must be permitted or approved through the proper local process. A deed, broker preference, or title insurance policy does not automatically change zoning or guarantee business income. Question 20. Avery signs an exclusive buyer representation agreement and later asks why the writing matters. Which answer best fits exam-tested brokerage agreement principles? Option A. A brokerage agreement eliminates all disclosure duties. Option B. Oral promises always replace signed terms. Option C. A brokerage agreement transfers legal title to the broker. Option D. Written terms help define services, compensation, duration, and the parties' obligations. The correct answer is option D. Written terms help define services, compensation, duration, and the parties' obligations. Brokerage agreements define key business terms and help avoid disputes about services and compensation. They do not eliminate disclosure duties. Oral promises generally do not automatically replace signed terms, and the agreement does not convey title to the broker. Question 21. A business offers to find apartments for renters in exchange for a fee. Why might Illinois licensing law be implicated? Option A. Rental-finding services can involve regulated real estate activity when performed for compensation. Option B. Rental-finding services are always exempt regardless of activity. Option C. Only sellers can trigger licensing law. Option D. The service becomes legal if no written records are kept. The correct answer is option A. Rental-finding services can involve regulated real estate activity when performed for compensation. Rental-finding and leasing-related services may be regulated when performed for compensation. The activity is not automatically exempt. Licensing law is not limited to sales, and failing to keep records does not cure an unlicensed activity issue. Question 22. A sponsored licensee uses the team name Lakefront Homes Team in advertising. Which compliance concerns should be checked first? Option A. Whether the team can operate without a sponsoring broker. Option B. Whether the team name and ad clearly avoid misleading consumers about the sponsoring brokerage. Option C. Whether the team name creates automatic title insurance. Option D. Whether the team may set commission rates with competitors. The correct answer is option B. Whether the team name and ad clearly avoid misleading consumers about the sponsoring brokerage. Team advertising must be clear enough that consumers are not misled about the brokerage relationship and sponsorship. A team does not replace the sponsoring broker, create title insurance, or justify antitrust violations. Question 23. A licensee knowingly misrepresents a material fact to induce a buyer to sign. Which licensing consequence is most relevant? Option A, automatic zoning approval. Option B, mandatory title insurance payout. Option C, disciplinary action for unprofessional or dishonest conduct. Option D, a tax prioration credit only. The correct answer is option C, disciplinary action for unprofessional or dishonest conduct. Knowing misrepresentation can trigger discipline because it harms consumers and violates professional standards. Zoning approval, title insurance payout, and tax prioration are unrelated remedies for this licensing misconduct. Question 24. A business offers to find apartments for renters in exchange for a fee. Why might Illinois licensing law be implicated during Cameron's Oak Park small apartment building file review? Option A, rental minus finding services are always exempt regardless of activity. Option B, only sellers can trigger licensing law. Option C, the service becomes legal if no written records are kept. Option D, rental minus finding services can involve regulated real estate activity when performed for compensation. The correct answer is option D. Rental minus finding services can involve regulated real estate activity when performed for compensation. Rental minus finding and leasing minus related services may be regulated when performed for compensation. The activity is not automatically exempt. Licensing law is not limited to sales, and failing to keep records does not cure an unlicensed activity issue. Question 25. A commercial tenant pays base rent plus a share of property taxes, insurance, and maintenance. Which lease type is most likely being described? Option A, net lease. Option B, gross lease. Option C, ground lease only. Option D, life estate. The correct answer is option A, net lease. A net lease shifts some or all operating expenses to the tenant in addition to base rent. A gross lease usually places expenses primarily on the landlord, a ground lease concerns land rental, and a life estate is an ownership interest rather than a lease minus payment structure.